Hey everyone, it's me again. So sorry for the disconnect there. As I said, my interweb's terrible. Bear with me. The next time it breaks down, if it is after a half hour or so, I don't know if I'll come back. We'll see. But with that said, though, guys, I just wanted to get back to the question that I was answering. Guys, feel free to ask your questions in the live chat. I am monitoring that. I am keeping an eye out for that. That's what this entire thing's for, is the live chat for the Q&A. So, guys, please be sure to use that. In the time that I was offline because of the interweb, I was able to set up my nice postal scale, so you guys can check that out too. That thing, I believe, is from the 1800s, so it's a cool antique postal scale, so that's pretty cool. But back to what I was answering, the question I was trying to address before my internet gave out, and that was, can you guys gauge the age of a book based on the handwriting in it? And guys, I find that you can definitely gauge and get a good idea of how old the book was. Of course, it's going to have a pretty big variance on how old the book really is, unless, of course, if the notes inside of it are dated. Sometimes you will find dated notes. Sometimes those notes will be from after the book has been out for a few years, but it does show you at least roughly how old the book might be. Of course, none of this is actually guaranteed, but with that said, though, guys, I just have a few different examples of things that are dated that you guys can gauge how old handwriting is off of. So this one right here, guys, is an old postcard from 1968. You guys can see the handwriting right there. It's cursive, as I'm sure we've all seen. We've all seen cursive like this. Nothing too exciting. If you see cursive like this, odds are you know the book is not going to be too terribly old. Of course, you can have an antique book that's 5 million years old that someone put cursive like that in, but generally I find a lot of the writing that you find in a lot of books will be older handwriting. People with newer books, yeah, they still write in them, but people don't normally write in books that are 100 and some years old. So usually I find that you can get an idea. Of course, it's anything but gospel. It's not the absolute truth, but it is a indication roughly of how old something might be. With that said, here is one from the 1940s. Again, cursive. This cursive has a little bit of differences, I'd say, from this one, but not a whole lot. It definitely, honestly, might even be from the same person if we look close. Let's see. It's not the same person. All right. I was wrong. But of course, there are different kinds of handwriting. Those are some of the more modern ones that you get. But you get some like trashier handwriting from really old books. So, of course, there is, again, a lot of variance. Some people will have their handwriting that's really clean. Other people have really dirty handwriting. Here's some really clean cursive, for example, for you guys. Really beautiful. Is this one dated? I do not remember. It's from Independence, Oregon. That's neat. Don't see any dating on that one. But guys, you can get an idea. But again, it's anything but gospel. But it is sometimes neat to look at the different handwriting on these things. And again, you can get an idea, but it definitely is not the best thing that you guys can do. I find that the more accurate dating that I can get on a lot of the items that I list and try to sell, a lot of the more accurate dating will be based on the publisher, based on the condition of the paper, all that sort of stuff. I don't normally go off of the handwriting in a book for it. Here's some cleaner, but dirty paper, but cleaner handwriting. I think this one's pretty neat. Let me just do a sound check really quick, though, just to make sure everything's proper. Yep, there we go. Apologies for the bad audio in the first section. It wasn't great. I hope that this one's better. Finally, we have this last letter. Here's the envelope, so we know when it's from. It's from 1920. Obviously, I don't have any letters and whatnot from like 1702 because I don't have any books from that old. But here's the handwriting from the 1920s. As you get older and older, the handwriting, I find, does get a little bit neater and neater. The books from the 1800s, like if you guys see the handwriting in those books, I mean, it can be absolutely beautiful stuff. I find that the most beautiful handwriting that I come across is usually from the 1800s. Of course, there is beautiful handwriting that's older than that, but I don't come across that very often. So with that said, though, guys, I do sometimes use that as a good gauge of, okay, how old is this book roughly? I find that it's a lot easier to sort of gauge between the 1800s and 1900s. For some reason, everyone went from like the really beautiful calligraphy sort of cursive sort of stuff going on in the 1800s to more of the cursive we know today in the 1900s. I don't know why that leap sort of happened, but I find that is an interesting cutoff, and it does sort of help me date a book. I don't understand how that works. I don't understand why that works, but that is something that I do come across and do notice, think. So Again, that's not the main thing that I base the age of a book off of, but if you guys can't find anything else for it, of course, you can gauge that sort of thing. So, with that said, guys, again, please be sure to drop comments in the live stream things. If it's a live chat down there, if you're on mobile or computer, it'd be over there. But with that said, though, guys, please be sure to ask your questions. That's what I'm here for. Sorry again for losing you guys halfway through the last one because interweb is terrible. I warned you guys. But with that, all that said, again, I'm here to answer all your questions. Sorry, there are 1,000,005 things that you can ask. There's 1,000,005 things that I can at least try to answer. Probably won't give you the best answer, but I'll do the best I can. But with that said, though, guys, as I wait for you guys to ask questions live, I just wanted to answer a question that I actually have heard a few times, and that is, what platforms do I recommend people sell on? So, guys, I sell eBay exclusively. I'm looking into potentially starting my own website down the road. I don't have the time to do it right now. I understand that sounds like a cop-out excuse. Da, 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 da. I don't give a rip. I'm doing other businesses, so I don't have time. But with that said, I would like to start a website down the road. I would like to start a brick and mortar store down the road. Those are things that I am planning on doing. However, big caveat here, they are not my main focuses of things to do with this business. My main focus is eBay and eBay exclusively. I find eBay is very easy to list on. I find its fee schedules, it's a little higher than what I would like, but it definitely is a lot better than a lot of the competition. Competition that I would consider using for antique books. Of course, there are new books that I can sell as well. So that's a totally different set of advice. But for antique books, guys, if I was to check out other platforms, Abe Books would be my very first next one that I'd check out. Etsy, the thing about Etsy, guys, is it can be quite scammy with antique books. If you guys have ever hopped on Etsy to look up an antique book for price checking, and then you checked the same book on eBay, you'll see that on Etsy, someone's asking $500 for the book, and it's beautiful, and da-da-da-da, and then on eBay, you hop on it, and someone's asking $5 for it. That's something you see happen a lot on Etsy, and as such, I would be very hesitant to sell on Etsy. In addition to that, I know some people that have done some Etsy sales things, and I don't know if I really like Etsy as much as I like eBay. I'm an eBay dude through and through at this point. With that said, that's for the old books. For new books, guys, I would be more than happy to return to Amazon. I've actually considered it quite a few times. I do have a lot of newer books that I deal with in my business. Of course, there are a lot of books that I snub, honestly, and I don't sell because I focus so much on the antique books, and because newer books, people go on Amazon to get newer books. They don't go on eBay as often. Of course, people do go on eBay to get newer books as well, but I find Amazon drives a lot more traffic for that. And yeah, I should honestly get a lot of these newer books and sell them on eBay as well. There is a lot of money that I am, as I said, snubbing, but end of the day, this is just sort of how I'm currently doing things. If I was going full-time hardcore on this, yeah, I totally would start doing Amazon again. I would totally sell my newer books on eBay as well, but as it stands, I'm just doing this as a more of a passion thing. It's a fun thing for me. I enjoy making the money that I make off of it. It does help me pay a lot of bills, but end of the day, I'm not putting in the time necessary to run multiple platforms. I'm not making the money necessarily that would drive me to want to put in that much extra time because, again, guys, I have other businesses that I'm attending to. Of course, I have made full-time income on this, made very, very good money, tens of thousands of dollars in just a couple of months. I believe my first 4 months of being in business, I made like 50K of sales. So good idea of what I did. Excuse me, sorry. So yeah, there's a lot of money in this business to be had. I do recommend it for a lot of people, especially if you're just trying to find a business you can get in that can give you really good money. There is a learning curve to it, absolutely, but there's definitely a lot of money to be had. But back to the question I was answering, Amazon is something I would recommend as well for a lot of people. The fee schedule is a whole lot higher, especially if you're doing Amazon FBA. Especially with Amazon FBA, you're doing lower tier books, like less costly ones. Because at the end of the day, you have a lot of fixed fees with that. So you're not going to make as much money in profits. You might make some good revenue, but your profits won't be as amazing. But Amazon is an absolute behemoth in the book selling space, book reselling space, all that sort of stuff. And I do sell things on Amazon. I do have merch that I sell on it. I do have books that I've written myself that I sell on it. all those books are under my actual name, not anything to do with antique books. So I don't mention those in this channel. But with all that said, though, guys, there are a lot of things that you can do. There's a lot of places that you can sell your books. However, with all that said, those are the more mainstream things. Some more French things that you could sell your books on, of course, is Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or any such site, Upflip, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if I would recommend those, guys. If you have done anything on Craigslist, the people on it can be a little flaky. First off, like they'll say, oh, I'll be there at 12, and then they won't be there for 12 years. That can't happen on Craigslist. Facebook Marketplace is, in my opinion, a little bit of a classier Craigslist, if you will. But even then, there are dangers associated with that. So for me, I do like eBay, because eBay, I do have that a couple levels between me and the person I'm dealing with, in case that person's sketchy, in case that person doesn't like my book and decides to hunt me down and try to kill me. I do have some nice little steps between us. And of course, I am exaggerating with the hunting me down and killing me. It's pretty hard to get someone that mad on eBay, but that is something that for me, I do like having non-face-to-face interactions with a lot of these things, because if you guys have ever dealt with people on Amazon, some buyers can get all sorts of crazy. And welcome in, Josh. Thank you for the comment. But guys, as you guys know, there are a lot of different people on the various interweb places. There's a lot of things that you can sell. Personally, for me, though, I do not see Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, all those such sites being good places to make really good money on your books. Because again, guys, I sell antique books. Antique books, first off, you don't have a huge amount of people really going after that. But in addition to all that, let's face it, guys, you're not going to make $1 million on a book on a Facebook Marketplace deal. Facebook Marketplace, people go there for deals, just like Craigslist, just like so many other places. Like, of course, there are people that sell things that are not for huge discounts, not amazing deals on those sites, but I find that by and large, you're not going to be able to run a whole business off that. Of course, I have not done this personally. This is just things that I have seen as I've browsed these different things, as I've seen these different things. I know of businesses that do all their advertising and whatnot on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, all those sort of things. But for me, with antique books, I do not see that being a thing that would mesh very well. I can't even find many antique things for sale on Facebook Marketplace that are books. I see other antique things and people are selling them for $3. So for me, that is also a good indication that you're not going to make a ton of money on that sort of thing. So that's my opinion there on other platforms to sell on. Back to a brief overview of what I just went over. For antique books, eBay is my absolute champion. But if I was going to test out any other place, Abe Books would be the second one. And I believe Amazon actually owns Abe Books, which is something that I think's sort of interesting and sort of neat. After that, for antique books, I might do Etsy, but Etsy is a far, 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 far third place thing. Something I'd be more interested in is starting my own website, which again, guys, as I've mentioned in other videos, I do want to do down the road, but we'll see when I finally do that. And quick sound check right now, just make sure everything's good. All right, sound check is good. So apologies for that. But guys, on to that for the newer books. I would do Amazon if I was trying to sell newer books. Still, I did stop doing Amazon a few years ago just because I found the profit is a whole lot higher on eBay with antique books. I do find that focusing on just antique books has really helped me profit more and more and more because I found that really like narrow focus. It really does help my profit margins, which I absolutely adore. It really has helped me make a whole lot more money. And as I've mentioned 100 times before, I make about 100 an hour when I'm doing this business, which is fan-stinking-tastic. I'm very pleased with that. So with that said, though, newer books, Amazon's first choice. Second choice would be eBay. I don't really have a third choice if I was selling newer books. I know there are a lot of new platforms coming out for that, but that's sort of my thing. So with that said, I hope that is helpful for you guys. Just reading a quick comment. Bonanza. I've never heard of Bonanza, so potentially that could be worth checking out. Very interesting. True Gather. That's an interesting site too. Well, there are other sites, I guess. And as I mentioned, there are plenty of other sites that I don't know about because I don't do this full time and have it be my absolute life. I do have other businesses that I do focus on. I do have other aspirations, other dreams. Antique books, those are my passion, though. So as such, I do let a lot of new books go to the dump, which I know I sound like a bad book person, but there are books that I let go to the dump just because it's like, hey, I don't have storage space for 55 trillion books. I only have 55 1,000 book space. I wish I don't even have that much space, but I hope that is helpful for you guys. With that said, I actually do have a little bit of a news announcement, if you guys will. So as I mentioned, I do sell books on Amazon, new that I write myself, and Amazon prints them, fills that, all that sort of thing. And guys, I actually got a message from Amazon. I saw the announcement on Amazon a couple days ago. They are upping how much it costs to print their books, that they are charging authors and publishers and that sort of stuff. And as such, that means a lot of these people are going to have to raise their prices proportionally. I did not see exactly how much they're planning on raising these prices, but why am I mentioning that for us resellers? That's the best question. So guys, if it costs, say, $1 more to make a new book, that means potentially selling your book, you might be able to ask a certain amount more because it costs more to print the book. Ergo, the book is worth a little bit more. And if you see the gap between the new book and the used book grow by an additional $1, odds are you might see that used book price grow, maybe not proportionally, but I believe it will grow. That'll be something interesting to keep an eye out for. Guys, I believe it was June 20th or July 20th. I don't have it right here with me, but that is something to keep an eye out for, guys. If you guys are selling on Amazon, or I'm sure even other platforms might see an increase in prices just because so many books that have been made for so stinking dirt cheap are now going to be a little bit more expensive. Guys, for me as a Amazon author, I don't have any of my books in reach right now, do I? No, I do not. But guys, I am able to print a book like this thick for like $4, $6, something like that, and have it shipped to me for like an additional 50 cents if I'm buying a big box of them. Guys, it's really insanely cheap how much you can, how many books you can get if you are doing Amazon and making these books brand new. As such, the market just gets inundated with all these things. And as it's getting inundated, that drives our prices as used book sellers, drives our prices down because there's so many other options. And now that the prices are getting raised a little bit, that might cut down on how many people are buying these books for dirt cheap and selling them for dirt cheaper or something like that. So we will definitely see how that plays out in the long run. I'm definitely curious. I'm definitely honestly excited about what might happen or may not happen with that sort of side of things. But I did want to earmark that for a little bit of a news announcement for you guys. With that said, though, I don't see any new questions for the Q&A. I do plan on staying around here for a little bit longer. I mean, it's only been 15 minutes almost. So I do plan on sitting around here a little bit longer to address different questions. Before I do, though, let me just see something really quick. Sorry, I was checking to see if I had something in reach, but I do not. But guys, I actually do have some books. You know what? I'm going to grab them. I don't care if they're in reach. Bear with me. Sorry, guys. I'll be a second. And I'm back. Sorry. I didn't get abducted by aliens this time. So, yes, 100% Miss Blondie. Yeah, books without barcodes are the thing. I always think it's funny when I'm talking to other scanners, and I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for these books that don't have barcodes, and I spend the time looking these things up. These people are scanning through like 50 things, and I take the time doing just one, and they're like, why are you just wasting time on this? And I'm like, listen, you just made $5 on your 50 scans, and I just made $500 on my one book I looked up. Guys, the books that I look up myself, like, I can make some insane money. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Miss Blondie. So with that said, though, guys, this right here is just a book from a big set that I recently got. You can barely see the number right here, but this book, guys, is part of set that I have, goes up to 248, but that stopped at like 1961 or something like that, that particular number. This set, they've made multiple books for this set every single year, and it's for the Oregon Supreme Court. They made these books for each different thing. And guys, with that said, these books, they were stored in a box. Guys, please don't store your antique books in a box that you have to shove them in and try to make them fit, because they do not fit. A lot of these books were damaged because the people did that. But something fun fact about these books, man, I was taking them out of the boxes, and I'm not allergic to like dust and all that sort of stuff, but I was sneezing so hard because there was just so much dust in the air from these books. So guys, the reason why I mentioned that is actually because I do have air purifiers. I've mentioned them in other videos about how I use air purifiers. I got one right here next to me. I actually had to grab this one and bring it closer to me because all these books, again, it's a set of 200 and some books, and I have all those books from the 1800s till 1960s. I had to bring this air purifier right next to me because it got to the point that it's so insanely dusty that I was like, okay, I am sneezing every 2 seconds. I am blowing my nose every 3 seconds. This is nuts. So luckily that air purifier was able to help me out on that. So if you guys are doing this business in a big way with antique books, I do recommend that you guys get an air purifier. Use my affiliate links down below to find them. I don't know if I even listed them out. That just shows how much I'm not here to really sell them. But there is a website called airpurifieressentials.com that I would recommend. They have a list of the best ones that they recommend. I'm trying to get an article with them made just to have an article with them about doing this for antique books. But guys, air purifiers, you can get a decent one. I actually have one just over there that's like this big for like 25 bucks or something like that. Look up like Three Musketeers air purifier, I think, on Amazon. So nice, so useful. Don't even use my affiliate link if you don't want to, but even that tiny one that's really cheap is really nice. The more expensive ones are even nicer, but if you have any allergies, if you have any smelly books, it is the nicest thing. So with that said, I do see you guys did a little comments, so let me check this out really quick. So definition of an antique book. What is the age for being an antique book? So some people say an antique book is anything that's older than like 30 years old or something like that, which I take offense at because I'm almost getting to 30. I'm almost 25, but that's close to 30. So guys, antique books, the actual official definition of being an antique is 100 years old. So for me, I like to say something's an antique if it's that 100-year-old mark. That is what people go off of. That's sort of the industry standard. A lot of people will say, oh, it's only 70 years old, so that's an antique. No, so I believe 40 years old is the cutoff to make something vintage. And again, guys, 100 years old is the cutoff for being antique. So anything 100 and older is an antique. Anything 40 up to 100 is vintage. And then I believe like 20 years old to 40 is retro or something like that. You can Google it really quick. I'm not going to Google it for you guys, but that is sort of the things. Personally, I do not like using the term retro. I think it works great if you're doing furniture and stuff like that, paint cans, I don't know, bottles. But for books, retro doesn't necessarily mesh very well. So you might want to say vintage if it's close to being about 40 years old, but personally, that's just what I find. 100 years old, again, that is the cutoff for being an antique book. So right now it's 2023. So if you have any books from 1923, that'll be an antique, and it's actually fun. So guys, I've mentioned in other videos, I've been doing this business basically since I got out of high school, and because I've been doing this for so many years, I actually have a few books that I bought early on that were vintage officially when I first started, but those are now officially antiques because I've been in the business for a little bit. So I'm like, hey, look at that. I got some antiques now. They were vintage, but now they're not. So I think that's sort of fun. Sort of like with cars though, guys, I guess a car after it turns 25 years old, it officially becomes a classic. So my pickup truck that I have is almost a classic. My pickup truck was made this year I was born. So 1998. So it's going to be a classic next year. And that makes me a classic. So hey, so with that said, though, back onto the comments, guys. Can I actually find buyers for those court books? Oh, I'm waiting actually to see. I haven't listed these books yet because I'm just so much like I don't know what to do with these things. The route that I think I might take for these court books. And as you said, even so many of them, the route I'm thinking I'm going to take is actually I'm probably going to parse them all out. I'm not going to sell a whole set of 200 and some books. I'm probably going to parse them out into into groups of maybe 5 to 10 ish, that sort of thing. Part of me wants to do 10s because I have 10s, but the reason why I want to parse them out is because I will probably end up selling them. I'll say Supreme Court things, and I know with it being Oregon too, it's like, it'd be one thing if it's California or New York. That's a lot of demand up there because there's a lot of people living there. Oregon, we're not the biggest state, and a lot of people are trying to leave Oregon altogether. If you guys have heard the Greater Idaho movement, it's because the Portland metro area and a couple of the other cities have become so psycho, the rest of the state wants to leave. So Oregon pride is rather low right now. So the demand for it probably is all sorts of low as well. But something neat is people do love to get their hands on antique books in general. They think they look beautiful on a shelf. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I have these antique books right here. And guys, this is not like some false background. These really These really are here. I promise. I got them right here. But guys, people love how these books look on shelves, especially if you guys can get your hands on ones with fine binding. So actually bear with me. I'm going to walk away from the camera for one hot second to show you guys a beautiful set of books that I listed it for about $100 more than it's worth, just because I think it's so beautiful and I want to hang on to it for so long. So bear with me. And I'm back. So I actually have two sets that I actually want to show you guys. So the first one here, I just like this set right here. If you guys can find an old set of books that are red and then have gold text, those generally people like to get their hands on those a little bit more. Of course, people do like other colors. They do like other sorts of text on these things, but those are my personal favorite ones. Red is one of my favorite colors. I got a lot of favorite colors. But guys, if you guys can get like ones that are like full leather and red and have like all this embossing that's all gold, and they have gilded pages. So I'm going to blind you guys with my gilding really quick. If you guys can get things like this, people love buying books like this because of just the appearance. People buy books for the sake of decor, not even to read. So for the law books, when I sell those, I actually do plan on selling them not as necessarily just those Oregon reports, but I do plan on selling them. I will put into the title actually that they are like shelf filler, beautiful books, something like that. That is the way that I'm planning on selling them. We'll see how it does. I'm planning on selling them for like $10 a piece. So not going to be worth a ton, but because I have so many, that ends up being over $2,400. So that's pretty cool. So with that said, the ozone machine. Yes. As you mentioned, ozone machines, guys, as you can see in the comment, they are absolutely amazing at just murdering odors. I recommended those in a couple other channels. Guys, I bought an ozone machine. I'm actually working on buying a couple more. I will in the near future. You can pick them up on Amazon for not a whole lot of money. I want to say like $40 or so. You can get a nice cheap one. I haven't bought those, so don't know if I'll recommend them or not. You're not supposed to be able to buy them in California because California, I call it Killjoy Cali. They don't let you get anything, but anything fun at least. But guys, ozone can really help to kill odors. I mentioned the air purifier, so that's probably where that comment came from. But guys, if you can get rid of odors in books, a lot of people like old books that don't absolutely reek, because some old books, they have a little bit of an old book smell is nice. I mean, this one has a nice sort of, now that it's aired out a little bit, it's a good old book smell. And there are other ones that the book smell is also not terrible, but there are some that the smell is just overpowering, and it's not just like an old book smell. You got some like dead cat pee smell going on, and you're just like, ozone can really help with that. Of course, if the book is absolutely doused in cat pee, you're probably not going to be able to save that, but it can definitely help. Like if the house it was in smelled bad, ozone can really help to kill that smell. In addition to that, because of the way that ozone works, ozone can big caveat there, potentially get rid of some allergens in the book as well, which is pretty stinking dandy. I think ozone's a really cool beast. So ozone generators, I'd also recommend those things. There are a lot of things that you guys can do to get rid of odors in books. Some people say that they sprinkle their books with baking soda. I tried that one, would not recommend that one. However, there are other people that have just like little bowls of baking soda scattered around where they keep their books. That works great. It's not going to keep up with things as well as an air purifier does, but it does do very well. Other people do vinegar, also works very well. There's a bit of a spill risk that goes on with that, though, so I don't know if I'd recommend that, especially if you think, for me, with the books that I deal with, my average sales price when I'm doing my business like I like to do my business, my average sales price, guys, is about $70 per sale. So if you think about it, if I spill vinegar and ruin one set of books, that's $70 down the drain. So that's the cost of an air purifier. So for me personally, I think an air purifier is a lot better of a move. Sorry to be selling an air purifier. I guess it's an air purifier sales video today. I don't know. I don't even make any. I would like to make air purifiers in the future because they're so cool, but But with that said, there are a lot of things that you guys can do to get rid of smells. There's things you can do to get rid of mold. I do go over that in the rest of my channel, so you guys can check that out. I would recommend checking that out. But if nothing else, I think an air purifier is a good like magic bullet to take care of a lot of things. With that said, back onto the comments. The word antique uses up too many spaces in the eBay title. Yes, it totally uses a lot of spaces. That's something that I have found. For me, I just sort of worked my way around things that I either don't mention it at all, or if the title's really short, I'll mention it. So in the case of a Bible title, the Bible, the publisher, it might be like this long, and then the year like this long. It's like you still have like 30 spaces left after that, so antique totally works for that. But yeah, I totally acknowledge that when you have antiques, antique does take up a lot of words. I see a lot of people use the word old. Old does have some bad connotations to it, but at the end of the day, it's an old book. People are looking up old books to do as like shelf stuffers to have pretty books. So that could potentially be a good route. But yeah, I personally avoid using the word antique most of the time. In addition to it taking up so many spaces, honestly, for me, I just find that it's not necessary all the time. I do make sure that I put in the year of the books that these things come from. And for people that are interested in a book, they don't normally look up antique version of this. They'll look up the year or roughly the year of your particular book. So I find antique isn't even a big sales driver for me. If someone's looking up antique books, they probably aren't going to buy a $300 antique book that you have. If they're only looking up antique books, odds are they might just want to have some shelf stuffers. Of course, there are some people that want to have the fancy book that they want that is X and X a thing, but again, they'll type in the title if they really want that. So with that said, on to the next comment. Rarely do I get a book that is so bad it's got to go. Oh yeah. Usually the smell, missing pages. Okay, you say missing pages and a bad spine, and I totally acknowledge that there are some books that are so terrible that I'm going to say it on video that you do need to throw them away. But believe it or not, I have sold a lot of books that don't have covers, don't have spines, are missing pages, missing a lot of pages sometimes, and they still can sell for me. Of course, those books are worth a fraction of what the other ones are worth, but because when I'm sourcing my books, I actually do buy a lot of these books, and I look them up before I do it, and I'm like, okay, this book is missing this many pages. I'm going to charge, say, 20% of what it's actually worth if it was all together, and I still can make some really good money on these books. Personally, for me, I don't get those books unless I know I can make like $30 or so, because sometimes you do sit on them for a little bit. But bad spine and missing pages is actually not like the worst thing that can happen for antique books, because a lot of people buying antique books, they're like, I want this book. I know it has issues. It's 300 years old. It's going to have issues. If I was 300, I'd have issues too, unless if I was a vampire. I don't know. Obviously, guys, I'm not a vampire. You can see the sunlight hitting me right now. I'm not melting or turning to dust, whatever. So not a vampire. But with that said, some books do end up in my collection, and I hate to throw them away. Yes, I am 100% with you on that one too. God, I love antique books. That's one of the reasons why I started the business, guys. I love having them. I actually don't collect them myself. For me, I don't know. I guess I get enough of a dopamine hit just by having these antique books and moving them through my store. It's just so fun to have my hands on them and touch them and do all these things. And like some of these books, I actually restore myself, and it's just so fulfilling just having them. So I like don't feel the need to like collect them for some weird reason, because I do have other collections. I collect a lot of random things. Like right here, we have some neat odds and ends that I collect because I like collecting things. Of course, if someone was offering me $5 million to buy some of my collections, I totally would part with them because I could restart my collection for $1 each. But that's just sort of something for me that I think is sort of funny, especially when you have so many other people that are like, oh, I love antique books. How dare you sell them yourself? I'm like, trust me, I actually don't get why. And I do have collections of books. I like to keep all the books that I've read over my lifetime. It's fun to be like, okay, I read that book and that book and that book. If I read a book from a library, sometimes I will act like from when I was in school, I actually have gone and bought a few of them just to fill out my collection of these are the books I've read. I know I'm weird for that, but that is something that I've personally done. And Sandra says hi. So hi, Sandra. Sandra, I think it's Sandra, sorry. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions, though, please feel free to ask them. I'm here. I've been doing this for an hour. I know the thing only says half an hour, but I was here for a half hour before the video gave out. But with that said, though, back onto sets of books. So I was showing off this set of books earlier. You know how I said there's 200 and some books. So guys, sometimes people do like buying huge sets of books. The biggest set of books that I've sold individually, I want to say, I think I might check it on the interweb really quick. So excuse me for a hot second. But the biggest set of books, not only the biggest like in volumes, but in weight, this set of books, guys, I want to say it was like 90 pounds all said. It was insane with shipping. I don't recall that for certain because that was a few years ago that I did that one. But yeah, so the biggest set I ever did was the Britannica Encyclopedia. And it was the padded black leather set from the early 80s, I believe. So black padded leather. Sorry, I'm a slow typer, guys. So yeah, looking at this really quick, there's someone selling that set. Someone selling that set right here on Amazon. Oh, please come through. Well, I think you guys are gonna have to trust me. Someone selling this set on Amazon for $1,800, almost $1,900. So that's a good indication of what that set was worth. And these don't even look like the padded leather ones, because they had a black padded leather version, and then they had just a black one. But yeah, let's see if it says. It doesn't say the number, but let me just look closer. 30, 32. Yeah, so there's 32 books in this photo. I don't remember if that's how many I had, but it was around there. So encyclopedia sets, guys, normally you'll see them and they have about 30 some editions. I do have a, I'm actually going to grab that set for you guys. I've talked about it in other videos. I have a couple videos coming out that I talk about them. So excuse me for a hot second. All right, I'm back. So guys, as I was saying, a lot of encyclopedia sets nowadays will have about 30 some books in them. However, with the older encyclopedia sets, there just was not as many things that I guess people thought about putting into these encyclopedias, or maybe one reason or another, they didn't have as many things to write. I mean, if you think about it, if you had an encyclopedia set from like 700 years ago, before the New World was discovered, you probably weren't writing anything about North America in your encyclopedia. So with that said, here is an encyclopedia set. If you guys have been selling antique books for any amount of time, especially encyclopedias, you probably recognize this set, which I am holding upside down. No, I'm not. Okay. So I say I'm a nincompoop. But with that said, though, guys, this set here, this is the full set of this encyclopedia. 3 books. This one, I believe, is a reprint because, I mean, if you guys see it, it's in far too good condition to be the actual year that it says in the book. So excuse me. Oh, and I'm back. So I'm going to just show you guys real quick, like this particular book. The reason why I'm a little thrown off, though, on the book's age itself is the fact that it has this foxing on it, though. Because, I mean, based on the smell, this book smells like it's probably from the 80s. It's probably a reprint from around then. However, the smell and the foxing, sorry, not the smell, from the foxing, it's like, I've never seen a book like this that has foxing from then. But as you guys can see down here by my finger, that Roman numeral translates to 1771. This whole set, guys, if you had the original set, could be worth thousands of dollars. Obviously, I do not believe that's the official original set, hence why I do not handle it as carefully as I ought to if it was. But that set, guys, encyclopedia sets, when you get older and older, have less and less books. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you had a book that was a set of encyclopedias 1,000 years older than that. It might just be one book. But guys, I find a lot of encyclopedia sets from, say, the, I'm going to say the pre-1900s. You'll see those sets generally have like under 20 some books. Of course, I'm sure there are bigger ones. I'm sure someone's going to correct me at some point, but that's what I personally find. So sound check really quick. All right, so sound check's good. Just want to make sure the sound check keeps going to make sure that you guys can actually hear me. But yeah, sets of books, guys. I have dealt with some very big sets, and people do buy the very large sets of books. Shipping is an absolute nightmare, so be sure you charge the buyer shipping for these things, especially if they live internationally. It'll really give them a good indication of, hey, you don't want to buy this set, and I don't want to ship this set, but if you really, really want it, yeah, it's going to cost you an arm and 5 legs. So that is something to keep in mind. Excuse me as I move those books so I don't sit on them on accident. Sorry. So that is something to keep in mind, though, guys. People do buy very large sets. Of course, the question was about the Oregon reports. I have them over there and one right there. Of course, the question was about those books being 200 and some volumes, and I'm sure they continued making these books long after, so it might even be a 300 volume set if I had all of them up to now. So that is something to keep in mind. A set that big may not appeal to many people. This particular set actually came from a law office that donated to a certain entity that I bought them from. But there are law offices, guys, that do have shelves and shelves and shelves of all the different Supreme Court rulings or different law books that they had to go through. A lot of educated folk won't read the books themselves, but they'll have a whole bunch of books on their shelf to make it appear like they are big readers. Believe it or not, they actually have a cool thing that talks about how many people actually go and read books after they graduate high school and college and all these sorts of things. And the amount of people that read books once they graduate college is astronomically low. So you can probably guess if someone has a bunch of old books on their shelf, they don't read them. And I'm going to admit it right now, guys. I have not read these books right here. I'm a faker just like those folks, except I'm not claiming that I read them. I'm not trying to make you guys think that I read them. I'm trying to make you think that I'm selling them, because I am. Of course, I'm not telling you guys where to shop for them. I'm trying to keep a separation between my YouTube channel and my store. I'm not on this YouTube platform to tell you guys about my store. I'm here to tell you guys about how to sell antique books, because that's what the passion is. I'm here to try to get as many of you guys as possible to sell antique books yourself, because as I mentioned in my official YouTube page, I'm here to help people do business. And in addition to that, I'm here to save as many antique books as I can, because a lot of the places I go to, they are literally going to throw these antique books away because no one else bought them. So I'm here to try to get more of us out there buying them, because there is a huge demand for antique books. So with that said, back here to the questions. Sorry to get to your guys' comments and questions so late. I get on a rant and I keep going. Do you find explaining in a listing every fault in a book is worthwhile? I want buyers to know I'm in their eyes, and then it dots. But so explaining every little fault about a book, I personally find is not necessarily required. I like to give people a good taste, a good flavor of what the book is going to be like. So I mentioned this earlier on, actually, in the first segment, I think, which you guys can totally rewatch if you want, but I'm going to go over it again just because this is a very good question. Do I address every single fault? And that's something that really it's a big hang up for a lot of people. So I'm just going to show you guys this book right quick and tell you guys what I would address on it. So here's just the outside cover. Things that I would address with the outside cover. So besides getting photos of as many issues, as many details about the book as I can without going totally overboard, I'd say, okay, the cover has obvious shelfware. As you can see, that is quite obvious shelfware. The spine has some rips on them. The spine is also quite sun bleached and a little bit worn too. I mean, you can see that color difference. So I would mention things like that. I would give broad overviews, but I'm not going to say that there is a 1/4 inch tear there, a 1/2 inch tear there, 1/4 inch there. I'm not going to like really go hardcore on it. I'm not going to waste 3 hours writing these sorts of things, but I do like to give people a really good flavor. So that's what I would say for the outside cover. And then I would say there's a stamp of a name on the text block. I would mention things like this. As for the book itself, I like to, when I'm doing my listings, and guys, I've been doing this for years and I have yet to get any complaints on how much I list, say in my listing, sorry. I've sold hundreds of books over the years. Again, no complaints on any of this. So I like to believe that I have been doing it well enough. I do a lot more than a lot of other sellers do. So potentially that's why I'm not getting complaints, is because I really do chase things a lot more than a lot of other folks. But for the interior, guys, I would mention that there is a stamp on the inside front cover. And I would mention that the previous owner's name is on the first page. And I would mention like a couple of those things. However, if the book is absolutely chock full of writing, I'm not going to mention every single time someone writes something. So I would say there's the stamp and the previous owner's name. And generally, guys, that sort of stuff is going to be in the first few pages, or sometimes there's going to be a stamp in the last page. So I check those things whenever I'm doing listings. This one does not have any there. So for this particular book, I would say there's the stamp, there's the previous owner's name, and there doesn't appear to be any writing beyond that. So I like to use the word appear because it shows that I did look, but it sort of gives me some leeway if there is one little line here or one little scribble over there. It does give me a little bit of leeway. Of course, I'm sure a buyer would understand that as well. But for this book, I would say that all pages are present because I've gone through it and all pages are present. However, there's a signature that looks loose. So let me just look to see if it is loose. So the signatures, guys, those are what you call, let me see if I actually have something to explain with. Oh, I don't. But a signature, guys, it's when you have like one page. And whenever you're making a book, you actually don't just bind one page at a time. You bind, say, 10 pages all at once. And pages are like, here's one page, here's the other page, and it's one sheet of paper. You do like 10 sheets all at once, and that's called a signature when you have those all together. So sometimes, guys, I find signatures will come loose in these books, not individual pages because of the way books are bound, but the individual signatures themselves. So this book, the signature is coming a tiny bit loose, as you guys can see. It's this one in the middle, but it's not loose enough to the point that I would think about mentioning it to the buyer on its own, because with the photos that I take, I would take a photo that shows that this one is not sitting in as properly as it ought to. So a buyer will know off the top of their head about that. So I would say all pages are present, none are loose. I would mention the writing, and then I would potentially, if the book had water damage, I would mention book has some water damage on the top right corner or something like that. And I would try to get a photo of these things. But at the end of the day, you don't have to list every single tiny little issue with the book, which is something that I do not see people do. Personally, I don't think it's totally required either, because so many eBay buyers are totally used to just totally being abused, honestly, for like so many people are paying $300 for a book that the person only took a photo of the cover for, and then they didn't even say a description. They just said book's good condition, buy it or don't, whatever. So when you go even just like 3 steps more than anyone else, if you take more than one photo, people will be more inclined to, first off, buy your book, but also be a little bit happier with your book, because it's like, this is what I bought. I did know what I was buying before I got it. I mean, think about it, guys. Would you want to spend $300 on something and then have it arrive in tatters because all you saw was a front cover? And as it turns out, it only was a front cover, that sort of thing. So I like to say as much as I can about these books, but I don't go overboard. So I hope that is helpful for you guys. In addition to that, let's face it, if you're writing all these things, it's going to take hours and hours, right? So pro tip for me with the listings that I make, I do write maybe 2 to 3 sentences on the cover, 2 to 3 sentences on the interior. And that's all I really say in the description. Sometimes I do add, if the book's more expensive, I do add a little third line that says, feel free to reach out to the seller with any questions. I used to say questions and comments, but I got a whole bunch of random comments. So I took the comments part out, but that is, I do say, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to ask for additional photos is one I use sparingly, because people do ask for random photos as well. I've had so many people that ask for photos, and you could tell in the way they're asking for the photos that they don't plan on buying the book. They just want to see that page of that book. So that is something to keep in mind as well. Maybe don't offer things if you're not ready to give it. So with that said, though, with these particular books, the amount of time I spend listing is, I usually do about 10 minutes per listing, which does sound like a whole lot to people that are just listing brand new books and they're like 30 seconds each or something like that. And when I did Amazon, I was one of those people. I actually, when I was buying all my books, I'd actually take all the books, I'd go through all of them slowly, and as I was going through them, I'd actually put them in piles. Here's a good pile, very good pile, like new pile, actually new pile. I would do all those different piles, and I would, from there, just have a copy and paste thing that I would do for when I was on Amazon. eBay with antique books in particular is it's its own beast, because antique books, every single one is worn a little bit differently. And just for an example, I mean, look at this one right here. It's got the sun bleached spine and then all the shelf wear. And then you have this Bible here. It's got some spine wear, but not really any sun bleaching. In fact, it does have a tiny, tiny bit, but nothing you guys can see on camera. But I mean, these are totally different animals. This one, don't think has any writing in it. This one has all the writing in the world. This one doesn't have any gilding, and this one has like the shiniest gilding in the universe. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you use this thing as a mirror if you really tried. Like, I can actually see my reflection. So books are, of course, very different between all of them. So I do like to mention big differences like that, but I don't get hung up on it. I do address as many things as I can, but I don't try to spend so much time on books. The 10 minutes or so that I spend on a book, I think low end is about 6 minutes and high end is about 15. But my average, again, is about 10. And guys, with these books, that includes the time that it takes to look up the comps. It takes the time that it takes to take the photos. And again, I take quite a few photos of my books. I mentioned that in a previous section of this video, or the last video, which I'll put together in editing. But all that time is all included, and it comes out to about 10 minutes. So don't perseverate on these things. Feel free to ask questions in the live stream stuff, guys. But don't feel like you have to perseverate on these things, just like I'm perseverating on the answer. You can definitely say it and then move on, because end of the day, we only have so many hours in the day. So wasting all of your time listing just one of these books here, one set of these books, you're not going to make nearly as much money as if you spent 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, on each set or book. It's really nice when you're able to do that. On to the next comment. But these days I take a lot longer to list stuff since I produce catalogs. Oh, that's interesting about producing catalogs. I believe this commenter has, I believe we spoke, well, commented together earlier, and they have a website. So I wonder if the catalog's for the website, but producing catalogs for your things is actually a quite interesting idea, especially if you have a lot of people that like buying from you, repeat buyers. For me personally, I don't actually have a lot of repeat buyers. I have great customer service, and my customers are quite happy with the stuff that I've sent them, but a lot of the times I don't have repeat buyers because so many of these people, I've mentioned this other story a lot of times. I have this one guy who bought this book. He lived up in Canada, and he bought this one book from this big set that I had of Charles Dickens books. That was about 30 books or so, and he wanted just one of them, and I was selling it as a set. But he was like, "Listen, man, I've been around for this book my entire life. My father before me spent his entire life shopping around for this book, and his father before him, so this guy's grandfather, spent his whole life trying to find this set of books because that set had been in the family for that many years, and it had always been missing one book." And the guy was like, "Listen, I will pay whatever you want for this one book." So there are a lot of people like that who this book, they've been trying to find it their whole life, or they had it in their childhood and they just want to buy it again. And let's face it, how many books do you remember from your childhood that you're like, I need to get another copy of it? There's probably only a couple of it, and the odds of me having all 5 of them or whatever are pretty slim. So let's face it, people are probably not going to return 15 times to come and get stuff. However, I do know of plenty of people that have repeat customers time and time and time again, and I'm a little bit jealous of it. Mel from back from Burnout, highly recommend you guys check out her channel, by the way. She talks about like incessantly, oh yeah, this repeat customer, this one, and this repeat customer bought like 50 books. I'm just sitting here like, I have like 10 repeat customers like ever. I actually have more than 10, but it's funny. And the thing for me with the repeat customers that I have, they actually buy my newer books. So I've mentioned in other videos that to get ready for the recession, I did get into some mass market paperbacks of it. And the mass market paperbacks, a lot of those people ended up being repeat buyers. They'd buy my lots of 10 and they come back later and buy 2 lots of 10. And then they buy like 3 lots of 10. And they come back and buy another 10. And they just keep on going until I ran out. I don't know if I'll buy more anytime soon. I couldn't find a place lately that has a really good deal on it, but we'll see. Back to the comments. So yeah, that guy, we did speak together, and the first year I didn't bother with the catalogs at all, but then I started gaining regular clients, which included institutions and other dealers, and they love to read through the issued catalog. So there you go. That's really interesting. Just in case you want to keep all of this private, I'm just going to skim it really quick. Current business model. This is a really cool business model, though. I don't know if you want me to mention this to everyone, since this does sound like a little hack, but yeah, that's incredible. I'm a little bit jealous. Nice to do the catalog, though. That's nuts. But yeah, cataloging sure seems like a cool business model, especially for antiques and stuff like that, or even books in general, because let's face it, you're not going to spend 7 hours looking through someone's eBay store. If any of you guys have ever gone through someone's eBay store and the person had like 300 listings and they didn't spend a lot of time like organizing those listings into sections, you know you're not going to do it very long. You'll walk away. I went through a few different sellers that I did buy stuff from in the past, and man, when you have an unorganized shop, it is painful. For me, a couple months ago, I actually organized my entire shop. I've seen an increase in sales since I did that. So I will have a video coming out on that in the future. But once I organized my shop and I did the different categories, all that sort of stuff, I actually did have sales increase. So excuse me as I drink my green tea. And I just choked on my green tea. So excuse me as I cough. All right. So the guy who was commenting, says that he's perfectly fine disclosing all this behind the scenes stuff. So in fact, he holds semi-regular meetings to discuss collaborations with friends and colleagues. Semi being the word. Yeah, I feel that. But what he was basically saying, which I guess I can now share, is that he has his catalogs and he spends a lot of time putting them all together, and he tries to produce them over a 1 to 3 month period. And then he sends them out to all of his repeat buyers, which includes institutions and other dealers and regular clients. So guys, for me, if I had regular clients, and I do have a few that have talked about becoming regulars, but I just don't get enough good stuff. But a lot of people that I've talked to that ask if I have more of certain things, they are going to be more affluent people. I do have a lot of affluent customers who are paying hundreds of dollars for things. I actually have a fun story for that later. So guys, remind me, Salem, that's the key word. But I do have a few repeat customers that are like, hey, if you get any more of this, let me know. I am going to check your store once every few months just to make sure that you don't have more of what I want, because I need to get these things. If I was smart, I would actually keep a list of these things and offer these people to put them on a catalog sort of thing. I've thought about it in the past, just a smidgen, but clearly not enough, because I'm motioning towards my computer where the comments are. Because man, Mr. Dirk, you are kicking booty on that. I'm a little bit jealous. Not jealous of the work it takes, but that's a really cool thing. But in addition to that, I do know of a lot of schools that actually go out and buy all the antique books that they can if the books are in good condition. So, for example, let me just grab a couple books right here. So this book right here, this is actually one of my favorite books, if we're being honest. So it's called Lee's Priceless Recipes. It has recipes on how to make gunpowder, dynamite, Greek fire, and also like pies and other such things. It's like recipes on literally everything. Oh, also how to butcher animals, how to make all these things. Really cool book. You guys can pick it up on eBay. This one's not for sale. This one's mine. Back off. But then this book here, no college is going to want either of these books. So this book, it's in tatters, especially when there are other copies of this one that are in better condition. And then this book here, guys, I'm sure you could tell just from that it's got a couple loose pages, if you will, like just a couple. It's really rough, but it's on rare coins, and I like rare coins. I like gold. I like silver. So that's why I keep that one. These two are mine. Back off, guys. But those sort of books, no college is going to want, but a lot of colleges, they do want to get their hands on higher quality books. So that is something that I've found. So back to the comments really quick. Thanks. The work is nightmarish, but it pays off. This is the guy with the catalogs. Appreciate your grind with the listing. Yeah, it is a grind. It's always a lot of hard work at the end of the day. Yeah, totally true. So with that said, though, guys, there are a lot of different business models that you can do. A lot of people will actually use eBay as like a lead magnet because, I mean, eBay, they take 15% of your sales for books. It's actually just shy of 15 for me, but let's just say 15% of your sale for your books. I just did a video recently on a book that I sold for $300, I think, and my eBay fee was $50 for this book. A lot of people use that, though, as a lead magnet where they bring a whole lot of people in who want antique books, and everyone comes through eBay. You pay an arm and a leg to get these people potentially, but then once you have them as a buyer, you put in a little leaflet and you're like, hey, here's actually something from a company that I have purchased from for the Goldbacks. I mentioned Goldbacks in another video. Where's my Goldback? Oh, I put it over there. Goldbacks, guys, it can be nice. In the other video, I mentioned this a little bit more. But back in the day, they actually used real gold on the gilding. So remember the shiny stuff that's gilding? They used real gold on this. Newer books, they use a fake gold or different paints or something like that to simulate gold, or they don't use 24 karat gold. So I actually bought a gold back to see if something was 24 karat gold, because that can be a good indication of how old a book is if they use 24 karat gold. So with that said, sometimes, here's the company. I'm not sponsored or anything like that. Oh, I just showed off their coupon code. Don't look at that, guys. But a lot of companies, guys, they'll put in a little business card or a little leaflet or something like that to push the buyers that bought from them on eBay, you know, all that funnel going into their sale. And then once you have someone buy, you know that that is someone that's interested in what you have. And if they are interested in what you have, you know that you might have a repeat customer. So a lot of people will put in a little leaflet, a little coupon, something like that, or they will send a coupon code through eBay to try to get people to come back. I don't know exactly the terms of service on eBay for that side of things, but a lot of companies do that. This particular company didn't do that. This is from an order I did through their website, but there are a lot of people that do that. Again, I don't know the terms of service on that, but that could be something worth digging into and asking eBay about, because I do know of plenty of people that do it. And a lot of places don't even do the coupon code of, oh, come to my website. They'll say like a little thank you for shopping with me sort of thing. And then they might have their website on the bottom, which isn't really saying come to my website instead of eBay, but it is a little bit of a hint, be like, hey, this exists, you can get less money. So maybe you don't want to do a big push, maybe just a very slight push, that sort of thing. But it's up to you guys at the end of the day. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. I don't remember why I was mentioning that. But yeah, that is something that you guys can do to help funnel more business into you. In addition to that, potentially it could be worth, if you're putting in a little insert, and if you don't have a website, you could do that little insert and say, please be sure to follow my eBay page to see other deals, see my coupon codes, all that sort of stuff. There is a following feature on eBay. It doesn't get pushed like at all, but it does exist. And there are a lot of people who follow places and they will buy every so often from you. And it's a great way to get repeat buyers. So that is something that could definitely make you a whole lot more money. So with that said, I got a new comment. Hold on. Sorry, guys, as I don't read these things aloud, just in case that people don't want them read, or if it has nothing to do with the thing, honestly. Yeah, it's always nice when people purchase from catalogs if you do all the business for it. There's a big section of collectors who actively seek old catalogs. That's interesting. And keep all the catalogs Yeah. So, talking about the old catalogs for books, in addition to people collecting these things for themselves, a lot of people will collect old catalogs so they know the pricing to price their books at. So, guys, if you guys can get your hands on old catalogs, so for instance, back to these books that I have here. So, this one right here is basically a catalog, if we're being honest, and it talks about the pricing for all these different books. And, guys, I know that with inflation, guys, we're talking about inflation being bad right now because we have the government says X much. Other people are saying, okay, the government always understates and it's actually 3 times that much, which I personally would believe, especially with what I've been paying for things. But guys, we're complaining about inflation right now. Fun fact. So 1913 is when the Federal Reserve, that's the people that print all the money that we have now, was created. That's America's central bank. The dollar is worth 3 cents of what it was back then. So a dollar back then could buy this much. Now it could buy 3 cents of what it used to buy. So with that said, some catalogs are not going to be very helpful for pricing, but it can give you an idea. But this thing right here talks about the pricing for all these different books. And unfortunately, I don't think it came through. But this right here is the Continental Dollar, which is pretty dandy. It's from 1776. And it says on the highest end, it's worth $150. Fun fact, guys, $20 back in the day was almost an ounce of gold. So this thing right here was worth several ounces of gold, and this one little coin was about an ounce of gold. So that is something interesting to keep in mind, because nowadays, off that pricing, this thing, actually, I'm going to whip out my calculator really quick just to easy math it, because before 1913, prices were quite stable because we were on just a gold standard. So I'm just going to really do this really quick. So 150 divided by 0.03. So today, this that particular Continental Dollar should be worth at the very, very, very minimum $5,000 just based on inflation. Of course, there is the collectability of it, so I would not be surprised if this particular Continental Dollar, that I just showed you guys in that little photo, would be worth tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars today. But it is cool to have catalogs because you guys can actually figure out roughly how much a book is worth. A lot of coin dealers will actually collect all the catalogs over the years with their little red book. This is not the little red book, even though it's little and red, but they will have actually different things that show how old their coins are and what people are pricing them at. They call a gray sheet another thing that coin stores have. And I know I'm talking about coins a lot with this, but that's just because I have that book and I like coins. But there are people, as I've mentioned in the comments, that do make catalogs, and you can use those catalogs as an idea of what your things are worth. Because let's face it, end of the day, sometimes something printed out on paper is a better resource than what the internet is, because sometimes the internet has improperly priced things, or you can't find it at all, and sometimes it only is on the paper version. So catalogs, guys, again, they can be a great way for you to figure out, first off, what's for sale, see if you can find some stuff that's a good deal. There's a lot of people that buy from other sellers to resell themselves. But in addition to all that, if you are a reseller yourself, you can always find things that, okay, I don't know what this is worth. You find it and you're like, oh, this is actually sort of what I have. And you can actually price your thing based on that. So that is something that's cool. With all that said, so remember how I said the keyword was Salem? None of you reminded me, you meanies. But something really fun, though, about repeat buyers. So I actually had a buyer who bought, I think she might have been the one that bought my padded black encyclopedia set, the Britannica encyclopedia set. That was the black padded leather, which, if you guys remember, was like $1,500 to ship or something like that to Greece. That poor guy. I had people for that set, guys, asking from Greece, from Croatia. It was one of the Balkan states. I don't remember which one. And then Turkey, which is pretty close to the Balkans and Greece. I don't know why everyone was so interested over there. And then I had South Africa. I had so many countries asking about that book, which was so interesting. But guys, there are people asking for all these things. And then this lady buys it and she reaches out and she's like, so I see that you live up in Gresham. I live in Gresham. So let's say the entire screen you guys see is Oregon. So let's see, for you guys, it should be right here. So here's the Portland metro area. And this lady lived down in Salem, which is around here. And it's funny. She's like, so I see that you live up here. Mind if I do local pickup, and I'll actually just drive up there someday and pick up these books, because shipping for those books, even down to Salem, was like $300 or something like that. It was nuts. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I was like, actually, deleted. Yeah, absolutely. I was like, actually, I'm planning on driving down to Corvallis. So here's Portlandish, here's Salem, Corvallis is a little bit further down. Actually, not that far down. It's more like this. But I was like, actually, I'm driving through there. So how about I stop by? We meet at the Fred Meyer parking lot, and we'll trade the books off there. And she got all the books, and she was explaining why she wanted them, all that sort of stuff. And obviously, she was quite happy to not have to drive however long that was. It's not too long of a drive, but it's a bit of a drive. It's a lot easier to do that drive now because now there's an In-N-Out in Kaiser, which is basically just a suburb of Salem. So they have an In-N-Out now, so it's worth driving down there a whole lot more. They didn't have it back then, so I missed out. But it was funny because I actually did a local pickup where I basically just delivered the entire thing, which I thought was quite funny. So potentially that could be something for you guys to do if you really want. For me, I didn't just do that trip because I wanted to. I did it because I was hitting somewhere else. But with the profit I made on that set, just off the top of my head, guys, I want to say I spent $30 on that set, and I sold it for at least $300, I think. So based on that, I could definitely pay for the gas and the time to go between the two places. I think that's how much I spent. I might have done more. I'm trying to remember if I bought that set together or if I bought it from Goodwill Outlet. Because if I got it from Goodwill Outlet, sorry guys for me being a little scatterbrained, I paid $229 each if I did, and that was like 32 bucks, let's say. So if I got it from Goodwill Outlet, that'd be 73 bucks and some change. So either way, I made some good money on that set, and I don't remember for sure if it was 300 bucks I sold it for, but it was around there. But even then, still good enough money for me to deliver it if I wanted to, but I didn't. And so that was a really fun thing. And as I said, just met at a Fred Meyer parking lot. If you guys are doing local pickup, even if you're driving non-local to do the local pickup, I highly recommend that you guys meet at a public place. Do not go to the person's house. Do not go to the backside of Walmart where someone's dealing crack cocaine. I highly recommend you guys do it in a public place with other people around. Let's face it, guys, society is not what it used to be. There are sketchy as everything people around. For me, I live in the Portland metro area, and 10 years ago, actually, no, maybe not 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Portland was safe enough that I would be willing to walk through it from one side to the other. Nowadays, I'm a dude. I can handle myself. I don't go there. It's not safe to go there. So that people just are not what they used to be. They're not as honorable. They're not as trustworthy. So be sure you meet in a public place. There are a lot of people that sell things online and they meet in front of a police precinct, or they meet at a post office, or Fred Meyer's is a quite common one that I see. Fred Meyer's, guys, that's my favorite place to meet up with people. I've done it quite a few times for different pickups. I don't invite people to my house to do local pickups just because I do like having that audience of everyone else around in case that person pulls out a bazooka and starts shooting at me. I don't want to get blown up alone, you know? So that is a little bit of a tip right there. I do have a video on how to do local pickup as well. I guess I actually had someone just comment today about local pickup. They said that their buyer actually did get the QR code thing to check off that you actually did receive the item, which is quite stinking dandy, because I said that in the video that eBay was potentially rolling that out, and I had so many people comment, it doesn't exist, you're a liar, but this person said it does exist now. So that's really cool. So keep an eye out for that if you guys are doing local pickup. But with that said, I got a new comment about one of my clients at a train station stop regularly. That's interesting. Train station stop would totally work. For me, we don't have like any trains on the West Coast. Like we do have a couple, but like if you look at a map of the trains on the East Coast compared to the West Coast, like the West Coast, there's like 3 rail lines, I want to say, that go from the West Coast to the East Coast, and 3 of those turn into 2 like halfway through. Then you look at the East Coast and it's just like a web. So might work for you guys on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, maybe not so much because we don't have trains, which is a real bummer. He always pays me with money in an envelope for books. I don't question anymore. Yeah, 100%. Once you do enough business with someone, it's a lot easier to trust them. Of course, you can always get stabbed in the back by some of these people, but the worst thing that happens is you're out however much you paid for that book and you don't do business with them again. Luckily, though, a lot of people that you find are honest, remain honest. It's very nice. I heard an interesting thing the other day. I guess your morality as a human being, you get that at age 10, roughly. And then after that, it's hard for you to stray away from that original morality, which I think is quite interesting. So fun little random fact there. So as I was saying, though, once you start doing business with someone and you find they're really trustworthy, it's a lot easier to trust them and keep doing things. Honestly, if I had someone that bought it from me regularly enough, I probably would invite them to my house at some point and be like, hey, so we could do the local pickup here. And while you're here, I actually have these 500 books that I think you'd be interested in that I haven't listed yet. You know, that could be a route that I take. I think I've only shown off a few extra pictures of what I have to a few buyers because, as I mentioned earlier, I just don't get many repeat buyers. I do for certain books like the mass market paperbacks and other such things. But by and large, most of the books that I sell, it's like one off and they never come back. I don't even know if they ever come back to eBay. I actually have had a few customers that are like, yeah, I saw you had this book and I literally made an eBay account to buy this book. So I have no idea how to do eBay. So can you walk me through that? But yeah, I need this book and I'm never coming back. So please. So I've actually had that one happen a couple times. So is getting blown up with people better than getting blown up alone, as I mentioned with the bazooka thing. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Have you ever been blown up? Clearly not, man. So obviously that's a jest. But yeah, thanks for the funny comment. But yeah, so end of the day, try to do as many things as you can in public when you're doing business dealings, because let's say the person steals all your books. They steal your set of Encyclopedia Britannicas and it weighs 300 pounds. They start running off with your 300 pounds of books. You can be like, stop, thief. And then you can slowly walk over to where they're struggling and stop them, and other people might help, especially if you're in an open carry state. Someone will really help then. But yeah, so that's the sort of thing that I personally find is the public areas. Actually, quick aside, so public areas aren't just for safety for you, it's for safety for the customer. A lot of people might not feel the most comfortable driving out to your house, out in the boonies or out in some quiet neighborhood, or if you live in a sketchy neighborhood, I would especially avoid telling people to come to your house because they're like, what? I'm not going there. So for me, Gresham is, let's say here, Portland's here, and between Gresham and Portland, there's actually an area called Rockwood. Gresham bought out part of Rockwood, but it's still Portland address. But guys, people where I live, they make fun of Rockwood. Personally, I like Rockwood, but it's a very crime-ridden area. It's gotten a whole lot better. They've been doing a whole lot of work there to try to make it not as dangerous. But listen, if you live in a really dangerous area, people will feel a little sketched out. If you say, for me, meet me in Rockwood, they'll be like, hey, what if you drove over here instead? Because for your customers, you want to make sure that they feel safe as well. So meeting in the public area is not just in case they pull the bazooka on you and try to blow you up. It's in case they think you might try to blow them up, that sort of thing. They're afraid that you might try to steal their money, because if they are doing a cash deal with you, which I do not recommend doing just because of eBay fees, you don't want eBay to get mad at you. You want to make sure all the stuff you can do is done on their platform. So that is a little bit of a tip on my side of things, but you want to make sure that your customer is comfortable. And for me, I have had quite a few local pickups with women, and women are obviously, understandably, sketched out about a lot of people, especially dudes like me that are very sketchy looking. I mean, look at me, 100% sketch. I got a shirt on, sketchy. So with that said, though, you want to make sure these people are as comfortable as they can be. So you want to meet in these public areas. So with that said, I think I've addressed that one well enough, considering I don't even think it's a question. It's just something I really wanted to get over. But yeah, that's my own personal views on that. I hope that was helpful. So with that said, I don't have any new questions just yet. So drop a little comment there. So guys, please be sure to leave your questions in the live chat area. There's not a whole lot of you here, but that's totally fine. This is my first live video thing, so I'm not too worried about it. But with all that said, though, guys, let me just do a quick sound check again. I'm sure it's still working, but yep, sound is still good. But yeah, that's just how that sort of stuff works. And with that said, I know I've motioned at this scale a couple times now. Guys, you'd be surprised what kind of antiques you can get for free. People try to get rid of all the things they can when you're doing big house cleaning. You're like, I haven't opened this box of books for 50 years. I'm going to sell it on Craigslist. I'm going to put it out for free on my driveway. I'm going to do a garage sale. I'm going to do this or this or this. Guys, you'd be surprised what you can get for free or for 50 cents each. For me, let's be honest, expensive antique books don't normally come from garage sales for me. Let me just think off the top of my head. I think I've gotten... Yeah, I don't think I've gotten one antique book from a garage sale. That's actually sort of funny. However, I did attend quite a few garage sales back when I was doing my Amazon FBA business with the antique book business. I got quite a few great books for Amazon FBA from garage sales. The reason why I believe I could get so many was because, let's face it, garage sales are not the best place to get a lot of things. And as such, a lot of other resellers don't go to them to get these things. So generally, I found there was not a lot of competition at these things. There was one garage sale I went to. I got a stack of like Star Wars hardcover books, and those things went on Amazon for 20 to 30 bucks each. I think it was something like that. And it was like when that set first came out. So that was absolutely amazing for me because I got them all for like, I got it in Bend, and I can't remember for sure if I got it for 25 cents each or it could have been 50 cents each. It might've been a little bit more, but guys, I got such a good deal on that. And it's funny when you go to garage sales or even estate sales that are done by the family itself, you can get some outstanding deals, because a lot of the times people just want to clear these things out. So like the scale that I got behind me, I paid a grand total of $0.00. So good deal for me. It's worth a good chunk, and it also just looks really cool. I think I might reposition a little bit for further videos, but yeah, I'm very proud of that thing. But you guys would be surprised what you guys can find if you just look around a little bit more. And honestly, a lot of the books that I've bought recently actually came from a college. And guys, after doing it once, I'm going to proudly announce, check out colleges. They may not be selling their books outright. They may not be telling you about it. But if you just go there, or honestly, I'd recommend calling or emailing. Probably email is a little bit better, less intrusive, because let's face it, us book people sometimes do not want to get a phone call from some stranger. We're a little sketched out about people. We read books about murderers, so we think everyone's a murderer, especially if you live in the Portland area where everyone is a murderer. Cough, cough. Oh, I said that out loud. My bad. But guys, quick aside, I live in Gresham. We have made fun of Portland all of our lives for all of existence, and Portland has made fun of Gresham for all of existence. So it's just banter at this point. But that's just sort of what I find. But guys, back to what I was saying about colleges. Reach out to your local colleges and ask them if they have any books that they would like to part with. You are an antique bookseller, a used bookseller, something like that. Be like, do you have any books that you've withdrawn and you are no longer letting people use? Because there are a lot of colleges, especially older colleges, that have 100 years worth of books in their inventory that they do not show people anymore because these books are in tatters or just really antique and they don't want people touching them anyway. So guys, I bought a lot of books from a local college. Trying to remember if it was just one or if it was two books from the 1700s from this local college. And guys, I live in Portland area. That's the West Coast. The West Coast, Oregon's only been a state since the 1800s. The West Coast has not been inhabited by Western society with all the books very long whatsoever. So finding books from the 1700s is very impressive over here. But guys, think about if you found, like, let's say Oxford College or something. I don't know when Oxford was founded, but let's say Oxford was founded in the 1600s. You might find books from their original library if you go there and no one else has gone there before. So that is something to keep in mind, guys, is check out those sorts of things. Just had someone tune in from Italy. So did I notice a strange decrease in sales since last April? So last April, I'm going to assume that last April includes like not this year's April, but the one before. So since this year's April, I have not found a change in sales very much whatsoever. I did have a couple of days that were a little funkadoodle as eBay had a little bit of weirdness going on. But since last April, like 2022, this is 2023 now. So since 2022's April, yeah, I have seen a decrease in sales. I've done a couple of videos on this actually, guys. Oh, the person said no, this year's April. So let me just continue my thing really quick. Since last year's April, though, I have seen a pretty big decrease in sales. It was actually a little bit before April, but since the economic crisis started ramping up to what it is getting to now, sales are, for my high-end collectible things, are definitely not what they used to be. Since this year's April, I have not seen much of a difference. However, after the first bank failure, Silicon Valley Bank, that particular bank failure, sorry, I did see a marked decrease for about 2 weeks or so, as everyone just got their pants scared off, basically. But back to the rest of this question. I'm in the same business as yours. A lot of people in the eBay forums are talking about it. That's interesting that a lot of people are talking about it. Again, I have not personally noticed it, but I don't really spend a lot of time on the eBay forums. Sorry. But that's the same thing for when I did Amazon. I was like, I know there's Amazon forums, but everyone there on Amazon forums back when I was there, they were like, all my sales are down. Is Amazon dead? And then you have the people that are there for a long time. They're like, you're an idiot. You only have $5,000 for sale. You're not a real seller. And it's just like, you're a jerk. And this person's just trying to get help. So stop being a jerk. So personally, I try to avoid a lot of the forums I do, because you have the people that are huge sellers and so many of them just end up being dirtbags that get tired of answering the same questions. So that's my personal thing there. So another person said, another commenter, forgive me guys for not saying your guys' names. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't really infringe on your privacy too much. But another seller said that his sales have been kind of but and they've also very much slowed down listing material while dealing with moving shenanigans. So yeah, I've slowed down on my listing for sure. And when I slow down on listing, I just automatically assume that my sales are going to be a little bit lower. So yeah, my sales are down a little bit too, but again, that can be easily ascribed to less listings. However, I'm still getting several sales a week. And as I mentioned earlier in this thing, I am doing this very part-time right now as I am working on several other businesses. If you guys don't know, I'm working on starting a gold mine. I'm actually going to be doing another trip, hopefully sometime this month. I actually just did a trip 2 weeks ago or so and got crazy sunburns. I know it doesn't look like I'm very tan. I'm looking at myself on the video right there. I know I don't look very tan, but I got quite tan from all the sunburn that I got as I was down in the desert. But working on doing a gold mine, so that's taking most of my time as I get other things squared away on that side of things. So that's my little excuse right there for not doing a whole lot of listing. But with that said, my sales still, they're quite flat-ish compared to what they've been for the past couple of months, which I find is quite nice because they were in free fall as of definitely 2022, but I want to say even getting into the end of 2021, it started getting a little bit, and then it just sort of, but again, I sort of started pivoting into the lower end books as much as I could without totally ruining my name of being an antique book guy, because I'm here for antique books. So with that said, I am, however, standing on 2 big sales, major clients. One of those finally got through and got balanced. Yeah, so it's fun when you are an antique bookseller or just a big bookseller in general that you can have your sales be down, but even with less sales numbers, you sometimes do get the really expensive sales come in. So this set of books right here, excuse me. This one's not fancy. This one looks like another set I have. That set right here. What is that? 6 books is $65, so not a lot. But the rest of that set, I want to say, is like $300 or something like that, and it's just a few more books. And I have another set of books, the Smithsonian ones, which I showed right here, and I'm asking $500 for these. So this set right here is, I don't know, 12 books or so. And it's nice when you are doing antique books, guys, because you have a lot of these books that your month might be absolutely down the pooper right now. You might not be getting any sales, but it's nice because when you do antique books, you do have a lot of $30 books, $10 books, something like that are your bread and butter of sales. But then every now and then you get that multi-$100 sale, or in my case, I had that first edition Time Machine, which I'm pretty sure sold for $6,000. You had that occasional sale that's a few $1,000s, and it's like, wow, this really rounds things out for me. I mean, I was struggling this year, and now I'm back in the black. It's really nice. So that is something that I find really is nice about the antique book business. It's something that I really did not see when I was doing Amazon FBA, because Amazon FBA, the most expensive book I think I sold there was like $120 or something like that. It's a big dichotomy between the two. So that is something for me that I really do enjoy. Sorry, I do not see the same decline in sales as you said a lot of people were reporting. I guess I'm a lucky ducky, but it's interesting just the book business in general, how some people that sell just new books might see more sales come or less sales come. And the antique book side of things I find it's not quite as steady, because remember, as I said, a lot of my high-end antiques aren't selling anymore because the crash has started. But it's interesting because I do find the antique side of things is a lot more steady of a sales item for me. A lot of that goes back to what I mentioned earlier about how some people have been looking their entire life or 10 years for a particular book. So because of that, they're not too worried about, oh, the economy's down, but this book might not be for sale by the time I need it 3 years from now. So I'm going to get it right now when I can. And yeah, you might get a lowball offer. I've been getting a lot of lowball offers, especially since I'd say actually around April-ish, maybe a little bit before that. But I've been getting a lot of lowball offers, guys, that are like less than half of my list price. So just as an example, there are some definite issues going on in sales. Yes, I am accepting some of these lowball offers, not the ones that are less than half. I do try to get people at least to the halfway mark, but that is something that I have been doing personally for me. And please be sure to ask questions, guys. I might not give you the best answer that you want, and I don't know everything under the sun, but I do know a couple more things than people that don't know anything about antique books. I don't know. But yeah, guys, I've been doing this for 5 years. I haven't come across everything under the sun. Guys, I'm being 700% honest right now. I've been doing this for about 5 years. I just came across my first books from the 1700s within the past 365 days. I believe it was October of last year that I finally got my very first 1700s book. As soon as I got that book, I was like, yes, I'm officially a real antique bookseller. And since then, I've gotten 2 or 3 other 1700s books. So I don't know. When it rains, it pours, I guess. I don't know. But guys, it's funny, just the sort of stuff that you come across. I mean, as I said, I've been doing this business for almost 5 years, and it took 5 years to get to the point that I got my first book from the 1700s. Everything until then, guys, was usually the 1880s was the oldest I'd get. I think before that, the oldest one I ever had was like 1856 or something like that. And that was like my running best ever. And as I mentioned already, these books here, I'm pretty sure are reprints. So I don't really count them in my 1700s count. So I said that my best books were like the 1800s and some change, but then I would caveat with, and I might have some that are from the 1700s, but I doubt it because, I mean, guys, if you guys have been selling antique books for any amount of time, you know this kind of paper is not from the 1700s. You know that this is a lot newer than that, so that's why I suspect the reprint. But it's still a cool set of books, and I still have been hanging on to it for a couple of years. I haven't even listed them yet, just because I think they look cool. And it's a set that I've been wanting for so long. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to hang on to them. But with that said, I'm just going to do a quick drink of water. Well, actually, green tea, sorry. There we go. That looked like product placement right there, guys. Saw the little Nalgene logo. I promise I'm not sponsored by Nalgene just yet, even though they're my favorite water bottles. But yeah, guys, as I was saying, please be sure to ask whatever questions you guys have on this business. Yeah, I might not give you the answer you want, but I'm going to try to give you the answer I can give. With that said, I think I've addressed a lot of the things that I really wanted to address. There's only one other thing, and I'm actually planning on making a video on this one, guys. So forgive me if I don't really get into things, but there's a very, very common misperception that me, as an antique bookseller, I don't deal with anything but antique books. And guys, I do. I deal with a lot of non-antiques. I know that all the things I have are antique and vintage behind me, just including myself. I'm 100% awesome youngness. Obviously, I'm kidding here. But guys, I know that it looks like I sell a lot of these things, but as you guys have seen in my other videos, I do sell a lot of non-antique items. I do sell a lot of newer books. I've sold some books that are I think the newest book I've sold lately has been from 2020. So I don't sell the newest books, I guess, but I do sell whatever books I can get my hands on if I know I can make some good money. But with that said, a bigger misconception that I've seen on YouTube and everywhere else is that paperback books have no value. And let me say, that's the case with a lot of paperback books. There's a lot of paperback books out there that are worth diddly squat. But at the end of the day, there are some that are worth a buttload, don't know what I was saying. Worth bank. There we go. There are some that are worth a whole lot. Guys, the most expensive paperback book that I know I've sold was worth $80, but I want to say I've sold some that are $100 or so. I actually probably will check out my receipt pile that I have over there of the ones that I've sold. But guys, I have gotten a lot of good money from paperback books. Paperback books, if you're selling on Amazon or eBay, you can make some really good money with them. If you're selling on Amazon, there is a little bit of an issue because a lot of the more expensive paperback books that you'll come across are going to be textbooks and that sort of thing, and you might be gated for textbooks. So that is an issue if you're selling on Amazon. However, eBay, you don't have the gating issue. But sometimes because there's no gating, the pricing can be a whole lot lower for these things. But even still, there could be some very, very good money in your paperback books that you guys are dealing with. Again, I'm hoping to make a video on this in the very near future because, again, it's a big topic, a big misconception, and a lot of people are missing out on hundreds or thousands of dollars just because they don't want to get paperback books. They see a paperback book and they skip over it. And I initially, when I started this business, I was telling myself, okay, I see all the other sellers doing this. I see all the other sellers doing this. But for me, I'm someone that likes to learn from experience and all these things. So I was like, okay, they're skipping these paperback books, but I'm going to scan them just to see why these people are skipping them. And guys, I would go through, say, 30 paperback books and only find one that's worth buying. So I could see why people would skip over it completely because it is a lot more scanning, a whole lot more work to look all these things up. But the one I found was worth, say, $20, which means $8 profit or whatever it was for Amazon FBA back at the time. So it's like, okay, it is a little bit more work, but still, if you think about the hourly that you're making, I mean, I spent, 2 minutes scanning all those, got $8 profit. Okay, all I need is one more of those in the next couple of minutes, and I'm up to making a minimum wage. That's pretty stinking dandy, and that sort of thing. So yeah, at the very minimum, you can probably make minimum wage doing that. But on the higher end, as I mentioned, I've sold paperback books worth $30, $60, $80, and I think a little bit more than that. Just last week, I believe, I sold a paperback book, I want to say for $80. I also sold one for $65. I sold a couple for $30 and some change, that sort of thing. Guys, you can make some good money selling paperback books. I know it's not an antique book. I know I'm a heathen for trying to say that you can sell non-antique books, but it is something that I've sold. It's something that I've made some good money on, that sort of thing. So guys, keep that in mind. Don't just snub a book because everyone else is snubbing it. Don't just snub a book because you only scanned 5 of that kind of book before and couldn't find anything worth good money. Like even cookbooks, guys. Let me tell you, there have been so many times that I went to these different sales and I'd go through every single cookbook and there wasn't one worth my time. And I'm like, man, that was a waste of 5 minutes. I'm not going to do it again. And I was like, I told myself early on that I was not going to swear off a certain, well, actually I did swear off some genres of books. I'm a Christian folks, so I don't like selling all of that witchcraft stuff. I know it sounds, oh, he believes in witchcraft. Da, da, da. No, there are actually witchcraft books that teach witchcraft and Ouija boards and all that sort of stuff. I don't deal with that out of principle alone and all that sort of stuff, but also like inner pro books, I call it. I try not to deal with those. Sometimes I accidentally buy them. I'm sorry. And I accidentally sell them because I don't know what they are, because I don't flip through all the books that I read. But by and large, I try to keep my inventory clean, or as clean as I can have it. So I did swear off those genres, but by and large, guys, I would be going through all these different books that I do on all these different sales. And it's like, okay, I didn't find any expensive cookbooks for the past 3 months of going through places. But even then, I'd still be like, okay, rather than not get the cookbooks at all, I'm going to wait until the very end to go through the cookbooks because no one else was going through them as it was. So no harm, no foul there. So I would go through, get all the books that I could from all the other places if I was doing scanning. All this, guys, is just me talking about scanning. Of course, I do the looking up books as well. And I do follow the same rules for that. But guys, I would scan every other book at these sales and I would check them. And I would have times that I found nothing in the entire fiction category. And I'm talking, I'd scan 200 books or so and nothing. So guys, that is something that you will come across. But even then, even though I had times that I wasted potentially an hour scanning books that had no value, sometimes I'd come across that one book that had a lot of value. And that's why I tried to never swear off these things. I was just trying to get all the inventory I could that was worth a good amount of money. So that is personally something that I liked doing. It's something that I have did make good money on it. Even to this day, I still do look up these books that don't normally make good money for me. So for example, I got here on my right, excuse me as I set that aside, I got right here on my right, a cookbook. I sell vintage cookbooks, new cookbooks, whatever kind of cookbook I can get my hands on. Sometimes just sell as a lot of cookbooks. And if we're being honest, guys, cookbooks, you probably aren't going to get rich if you're selling them as lots, but you're going to be able to just get nice, consistent sales volume off that sort of thing. I haven't sold a cookbook set for couple of weeks though, believe it or not. So honestly, I need to run another sale on it. Cough, cough. I've actually started doing like half off sales on what I currently have them listed for because I paid 50 cents each for them or free, somewhere between the two for these cookbook lots. So basically no matter what I sell them for, I'm making good money. So that is something for cookbooks. You can definitely get the ones that are worth very little and still make some money on them. But at the end of the day, cookbooks, there are the occasional ones that are worth $20, $30, that sort of thing. Of course, I did not scan every single cookbook that I have here on my right. I have piles and piles of them on my right. Of course, I did not scan every single one down here, but there are a few that when I was going through them, I was like, okay, this one's worth $25. Yeah, I'll list this one on its own, but then I go over another one. And it's like, okay, this one's only worth $20. I'm going to throw it into a lot of books and that sort of thing. So if you guys are trying to sell cookbooks in your business, I would recommend selling lots of vintage cookbooks. Vintage cookbooks do very well for me and a lot of other sellers. Vintage cookbooks are something that people do like. Antique cookbooks also do very well. There are entire kinds of cookbooks. I'm trying to see if I have any of them right now. I don't see it. Forgive me, guys. I don't see it right now, but there is the Women's Institute cookbooks that they're very well made and they look great, but they actually aren't worth anything, which is sort of a bummer. But there are some of those kinds of cookbooks that actually do sell pretty well and can get you some really good money. I mean, I've seen some cookbooks sell for over $100, and cookbooks, so many people that sell them think cookbooks have no value whatsoever. So they'll give them away or they'll charge you 50 cents each for me, like I got for those. 50 cents each. If you can make $1 each on them, it's pretty good. If you can make $50 on each, it's even better. So that's something to keep in mind for cookbooks. So with that said, though, hope that addresses the big things about cookbooks. Oh, another thing about cookbooks, if you are selling lots of them, try to do a lot of Mexican food cookbooks, like 5 of them, or desserts or cakes or something like that. Try to like have them actually have some consistency. So someone looking up cake cookbook won't buy one cake book in your lot and then have like 5 random things. Try to keep things a little consistent because that will help people be a little bit happier with what you come across. So looks like we got a new comment. Precision paperback of W. Huh. Never heard of W.S. Oh, I have heard of W.S. Burroughs. My bad. But yeah, this person says first edition of the paperback of W.S. Burroughs Junkie could be worth thousands. And yeah, as they said, um, seriously, guys, some paperback books, rather than being worth a couple $100 or tens of dollars, can actually be worth thousands of dollars, guys. Like, it's something I find is interesting though. Is sometimes when you have a signed paperback book, sometimes it does not help the value so much though, because sometimes some authors sign every single book that goes out. So you might have it signed, you might think you found something worth millions, and it ends up being worth about the same as everything else, which is a bit of a bummer because everyone else has a signed one. But sometimes you do have signed ones that do really increase the value. In fact, I've seen some books, guys, that the book's signed, and all of a sudden the person asks for like $10,000 more, and it actually sells, and you're just like, can I have one? Can you sell it to me for $2 and I'll sell it for 10? You know, what if? But that is something that I definitely have had, guys, that I've had some paperback books that the value is not changed at all by signing it being signed. I've had other ones that it does help the value a bit. So it's up to you guys to figure out what you sort of want to sell your book for, that sort of thing. But yeah, that is something that I've come across a few times now in the business, is paperback books that are worth a whole lot more. Usually it's the ones that I don't come across. It's usually ones that I see when I'm doing other things, but it is something that does happen. So excuse me. Been going at it for 2 hours now, so I got to get some drinks, guys. But yeah, that is something that I've definitely come across with my business, is there are some books that are just worth astronomical amounts. And if you swear off all paperbacks in general, you will miss out on the ones that are worth thousands of dollars, which is, let's face it, guys, it's sort of painful to think that you miss out on some of those books. Like for me, when I first started doing the Amazon FBA, I sort of did snub the antique book side of things. I just looked through a few of them. Like I'd thumb through the titles and be like, I don't know this one or this one or this one or this one. So I'm not even going to look them up because I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know, you know? So looking back, it's like, like guys, there's one of the absolute best book sales I've ever been to. Top 5 for me, and I've been doing this for 5 years, so I've been to a couple book sales. One of the best ones I've ever been to was in Pendleton. So the entire screen's a map of Oregon. Oregon's a rectangles, minus it has a little cancer growth up top. But I live in the Portland area, and then Pendleton's around here-ish. So I would drive that distance sometimes for this particular sale, guys, because this book sale in Pendleton was absolutely astronomical. And when I went to this book sale in Pendleton, guys, I was just barely dipping my toe into doing antique books in a more serious way. And I know for a fact that I did not get every single book that was worth a lot of money back when I was going to this particular one. Because again, guys, I was getting into the antique books back then. I mean, I did start my business and I did have some eBay antique stuff going on, but I didn't do it in a big way. So when I went to this particular one in Pendleton, guys, this sale had 50,000, 60,000 books at least. So, you know, a normal gym. This was not a normal gym. This was in their convention center, or their, I don't know, it's whatever their big meeting hall is. It's convention center some places, it's the rodeo place in other places. But guys, it was about, I'd say 3 gyms worth of area, 3 gymnasiums worth of area. I mean, it was huge, stinking enormous. So I went there and they had, I'm going to say, 1/6 of the area, between 1/6 and 1/4, that was all just antique books. And they had some vintage and antique books mixed out throughout the other parts, but that area was just for the antique books. And I went through there. I picked out a few books. I made a couple $100 off that, which more than paid for the gas, cough, cough. But it's funny because looking back, it's like, and they were telling me that they just sell this stuff at the recycler afterwards. Oh, man. Oh, my book bones were just quaking. And it was funny, guys, because thinking about it now, it's just like, I should have scanned every single book. And by scanned, I mean like typing in all the info on it on eBay. Guys, when I get antique books, I have to go on the eBay app. I type in the title, author, year, and that's how I pull up the books that I do. And if it doesn't pop up, sometimes I still buy the book if it's a good enough deal. But guys, I bought dozens and dozens of those antique books, made hundreds and hundreds of dollars, probably thousands if we're being honest, off of just the antiques. That was basically for me the turning point between, oh wow, I only made, these numbers are going to be very arbitrary, guys, sorry, but for that trip, let's say I only made $3,000 worth of sales from Amazon, and on eBay I probably did 6 or something like that. And I was like, wait, I got more revenue and more profit because Amazon, I was doing Amazon FBA. So Amazon would take this much of a chunk out of my sales, and eBay, it's only like 15%. It's like, so I was making more revenue and more profit on these items than I did for Amazon. Amazon, it was a lot more consistent of sales. It was a lot higher volume of sales. But for me, the eBay, the profits that I'd make, the revenue that I'd make, it was just astronomically higher. So for me, after that Pendleton trip, guys, it was like, this is game sticking over. I don't even know if I want to keep on doing Amazon after that eBay trip. And from there, guys, I'm at the point that I check every single antique book or almost every single antique book because I make hundreds and thousands of dollars off of these books. Obviously not hundreds of thousands of dollars, or else I would be wearing a much nicer shirt than something you get at Walmart. Cough, cough, I get my clothes at Walmart. Yeah, I said it. I'm a cheap person. But that is something that definitely does happen. And guys, just want to remind you, you can ask questions and comments down in the video, live chat sort of thing. But yeah, so please be sure to drop a like also. But guys, that is definitely a big thing for my business. After that trip, I was like, okay, eBay is the thing for me. And I hopped on over to eBay, and I've made a whole lot more money on eBay, a lot more profit per sale also off of eBay than I ever did on Amazon. So that's why I definitely made the leap. As I've mentioned already, though, there's a lot of things that do make me want to hop on back on over to Amazon and keep doing Amazon. Amazon was a great business model. It is a great business model for a lot of folks, but Amazon's their fee structure is just all over the board all the time. So that is something definitely to keep in mind. And I know I might be jinxing it by saying it, but we've had good internet for an hour and 40 minutes. So I wouldn't be surprised if I do die out soon. So sorry, guys, if that does happen. Probably will not be hopping back on if we do that because my voice is absolutely dying at this point because talking for 2 hours straight is not necessarily the best feeling in the world. So excuse me as I take a quick drink. Green tea and honey for the win, guys. And before you guys think that I'm spending expensive stuff, drinking expensive stuff, I'm cheap. I told you. All that tea is from Winco, and all that honey that I put in it. Honey helps soothe the throat. That's from Winco as well. Winco, guys, is like a smaller version of Costco, and it's just for the Pacific Northwest, which is the cooler part of the country. With that said, though, guys, again, please be sure to ask your questions. I'm here, as you guys can tell. I've been here for a little while, 2 hours basically of answering questions because I had a half hour or so that I did right before and it died out. So with that said, I'm just going to address another quick question before I hopefully have you guys ask about something. So book storage. I've had a lot of people ask about how to properly store books. I've had people ask about, like, do I store them in these boxes or these boxes? What about this? What about this? Guys, I personally do not recommend storing your books in boxes whatsoever. I actually have a video coming out soon that I mentioned that, which I talk about with these books here that I talked about, the Supreme Court ones. Guys, I'm begging you, please do not store your books, your antique books, in boxes if at all possible. I do understand that there are some books that might need to be stored in boxes to make sure that they are safer, and that is the exception, though, not the norm. Please don't store most of your antique books in boxes because this is just like a cognitive thing for people. If you store it in a box, you forget about it. If you forget about it, it eventually gets shoved into the garage. If it gets shoved in the garage, and if it's a 40-pound box, eventually you think, okay, I need to either get rid of this or I'm going to leave it in the garage and never move it again. And guys, garages are one of the worst places that you can store your books. Garages, they get exposed to the elements. I've seen so many garages get flooded. So many. And I'm not talking just like a little bit of a puddle, which happens even more often, but I'm talking inches and inches of water. And let's face it, you have a 40-pound box of books, you're going to put that on the ground. The ground plus 2 inches of water equals your books are drenched, your books are ruined, your books are either going to mold or you just threw them away. And these books, guys, antique books can be worth hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, that sort of thing. So you might be throwing away your money if you put them in a box and you forget about them. So that's one of the reasons why I don't recommend shoving them in a box. In addition to that, some people, they shove all the books they can into a box to save a little bit of money on boxes because, you know, boxes are so expensive. It's $1. You're going to waste a whole extra $1 to make sure your book doesn't fall apart. So guys, I personally recommend making sure that you put them on shelves. When you are storing your books on shelves, though, as you guys can see, I had them all laid on their sides. That's how you're properly supposed to store antique books. The reason for that, let's see if I have any examples. Man, I don't have any good examples right here. But guys, when you have antique books, so here's the cover. This is the text block. the text block will actually sag. So this one you could see did sag a little bit, but the text block will actually sag to the point that it actually touches your bookcase, and eventually it actually tears out at the top part too, where the binding just totally comes away because, let's face it, that much paper has a good amount of weight, and if you're dealing with an antique book that's 300 years old, it can't necessarily hold that weight perpetually. So you do want to make sure that you try to give your book the best chance it has. That's why people recommend, and why I recommend, storing your books on their sides. Of course, it doesn't look nearly as nice as everything filed up right next to each other, looking all fine and dandy like everyone else does their books, but it is going to be how you maintain your antique books for the longest amount of time possible. That is the best thing that you guys can do for your books. I do know that some people have to store their books in boxes, and there are recommendations for that. I don't have any recommendations for it because, again, I don't like recommending people putting their books in boxes. And in addition to that, I don't know all of the different ins and outs of properly storing them in acid-free thing and this and this and this. Personally, for me, I like to avoid all the boxes altogether just because of all the terrible, that's a lot of terribles, books that I've pulled out of boxes when I'm buying them that are just in absolute tatters. It has a rat nest in it, something like that. These books just get used and abused when they are in boxes. So that's why I personally recommend people do not do that. For me, I am a bookseller with thousands of books. Like, I'm looking right now in this room alone, I probably have 3,000 books or so. And this is just my recording room that I do my listing and whatnot. My storage is over there. And in that one, I got a couple thousand. So like, I got thousands and thousands of books, and I do not store them in boxes. I try to get my books out of boxes as soon as I can. The only books that I store in anything close to a box are mass market paperbacks, and I store them in totes. Guys, if I'm storing mass market paperbacks in those books that are worth 5 cents each, I think we should understand that we should not be storing books that are worth hundreds of dollars in a box. So I hope that is helpful for you guys. And it looks like I'm basically alone now for the live stream right now. It looks like a lot of people have left. So at this point, I think I can round up this video. I hope that this live stream thing was helpful. If it was, I'd love to hear you guys talk about it in the comments below. I'm going to probably piece together the first half and the second half of this video into one video that I will release tomorrow, Thursday, instead of my normal scheduled video, just so everyone can get a good chance to see it, because eBay has a weird thing that they put the videos in one section and the lives in a totally different section that people can't find. So I'm going to republish this as a normal video as well. But I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. I'm sad there weren't a whole lot of questions for me to answer, but I do hope that I addressed a lot of the important things for you guys. So with that said and done, though, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Please be sure to check out one of my other videos. Again, I really would love to hear you guys comment below if you would like to see, if you'd like to see any more videos like this. It is a little bit hard for me to do live streams, I will admit. As I mentioned already, the video did die on me halfway through. Well, actually, at this point, a quarter of the way through, which does happen quite often for me because my interweb is the definition of turd half the time. It's a little bit annoying. Luckily, we got a new provider that's a little bit better, but still not great. But that is something that is just part of the course for me. Hopefully down the road, I'll be able to get fancier internet that actually works. But as it stands, no provider we've had over the 10 years or so that we've lived here have worked well. So that's just part of what happens when you live out here. So with that said and done, if you guys don't have any brand new questions, I think I'll be ending this live stream. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.